This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And on this week's episode, he's taking a look at the game show combat arena shooter, The Finals.
I am now looking at a bizarre abomination that is casino themed, and we've abandoned all pretense at reality, and the pan magazine has been replaced by a roulette wheel.
And if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to keep an eye out for our new season of Loadout, a show where we take a look at the history and impact of some of the most iconic weapons in gaming. Our first episode launched recently and takes a look at how games struggle to get the humble SMG right. Jonathan will be making plenty of appearances over on that show too, so make sure to check that out. Right, over to the guns of The Finals.
Fairly ordinary looking AKM/AK-103 maybe. Slightly hyperactive reloads there, I think. We've got a knock the mag out reload. We've got throw it in the air, catch it on the other side and shove it in reload. That's unusual. Not really sure what's happening to the old mag there. I am bamboozled slightly by that one. Having been advised that this was like a VR game show type scenario, I was expecting this to not really look like an AK, but it actually does. It's not far off. There's the sight rail on the left side. That's why I mentioned the AK-100 series. It's not actually an AK-100 series because the buttstock is not foldable and the furniture isn't the right pattern. It's too smooth. So it's more of a generic, modernized AK. Case ejection is a bit odd, a bit like the RoboCop game from the other week. The cases appear to be coming out backwards. I'm not sure what's in the water in game development world at the moment, but we need to stop making our cases eject backwards, guys. There's something funky with the rear sight. It looks like the adjustable sight from the RPK or something close to it. And the aperture is at the rear is very, very wide. And we have these decals all over the weapon, which I guess fits with the theme, but is a little distracting.
Oh, that's distracting.
I couldn't help but notice the golden charm hanging off this thing in the preview.
It's okay, that's as bad as it gets.
Is it? Oh, that's a very gaudy looking revolver. Looks like a Taurus, I think. Taurus Raging Bull. Diamond encrusted. Also, it's close enough anyway. We don't have a Raging Bull actually for me to compare. This appears to be Diamond or Diamante. We have just put on display here at the Armouries in Leeds a Smith & Wesson with a load of little diamonds on it. Not a million miles away from this thing. It's funny to see a virtual equivalent. I would show you that, but it's behind glass in the museum. So do come and see it. I didn't take you for an Elvis impersonator, Dave.
Oh.
Please leave that in.
Dang it. I don't know if you saw on the reloads, but it actually tracks the correctly dimpled primers of each 6 shots.
I didn't notice it, but to reference Mr. Plinkett, my brain did. Needless to say, a very decorated revolver like this does fit with the Elvis outfit, which I'm guessing is what you were going for. Now, I've seen several of Elvis's firearms, not in person, but as they come up for sale over the years. I don't believe he ever had a diamond-encrusted revolver. I think he had quite a highly decorated 1911, if I remember rightly. Otherwise, this thing is absolutely boilerplate Magnum revolver in video game style. But yeah, I do give him points for tracking the firing pin impressions on the primers. All right, so now we have an extremely elaborate take on the Winchester 1887. We've shown that several times here. This is super short, so it's been given a sort of bird's head pistol grip and a very short barrel. Mechanically, technically, it looks okay without referring in detail. The decoration makes it a little bit hard to do a detailed analysis. So yeah, we've got a chamber load and then a magazine load as well. It's pretty good. I don't know if that loading lever loop is big enough to be doing that flip cock, made famous initially by John Wayne in True Grit and then in T2. It's a little too frenetic to see, but it looks a little too small. Reason being, if that lever is the normal size and you flip the gun fully around your knuckles, you will seriously hurt your fingers and you will not complete the loop. Oh, we've got a catch the round as you eject it thing going on.
Because that's a partial reload, that's accurate as to like that shell wouldn't have been fired yet, right?
Correct. Yeah, they are, for all the unreality of this setup so far, and it's kind of over the top and stylized, but no real technical issues so far, apart from some dubious looking cases ejecting. Now, we're using this 1887 as a pistol, and it is a short one, admittedly. Only one hand on the gun at all times, for no perceptible advantage. I don't see, like, the left hand's not being used for grenades or anything else, as far as I can see. Always worth having two hands on the gun. So here's one I've had to dig into a little bit because, yes, okay, it's the China Lake pump action grenade launcher, but it isn't exactly that. This was a redesign of that by the Airtronic company in the United States, who are probably known, if they're known for anything by us, for their RPG-7 covered in rails, Picatinny rails. Well, they did the same thing to the China Lake. They redesigned it with an M4 style buffer tube buttstock and Picatinny rails on the top. But having checked on this, it never made it out of prototype. That's fine. This isn't even the real world we're looking at. So why wouldn't it be in this? And it gives you something different than the classic M79, MGL, M203, or whatever.
It's called the CL40 in game, which is obviously a nice reference to, well, the China Lake, but not the China Lake.
Yeah, I can't remember now what the Airtronic designation was, if it ever had one.
You'll see a lot of destruction in this game. That's another huge part of it. Like, if people are defending objectives, you can just crunch through a wall or use a grenade launcher to make the objective fall down a floor to you or something. Which is a lot of fun.
That is interesting. And of course makes the grenade launcher more than just a glorified explodey shotgun. It becomes a tool, potentially, to breach with.
Crucial moment for the socialites if they want to avoid a team wipe.
Okay, this is interesting. When I saw that the Lewis gun was in this game, I was pretty surprised. It's a very vintage gun to appear in a, well, I guess almost a sci-fi dystopia, really, albeit virtual. And I was intrigued to see how realistically it was done. And the answer is quite. This is one of our many Lewis guns. We have about a dozen of these things. One of the first light machine guns, light being a relative term, as you all know, I think by now. It's pretty hefty. So we have replicated the classic drum magazine, or pan, actually. It's open, so it's not truly a drum on top, and that's being removed and replaced correctly. We have what looks like a water jacket, but is actually a radiator. You get a view down the lens there. See those veins? Well, you see those veins at the back, and you see it on the game gun as well. That is a full-length ribbed aluminium radiator, and it uses forced air cooling, where the muzzle blast sucks cold air over the barrel, or rather over the radiator. So the heat is drawn into the radiator, and then the cold air is drawn over it, almost like the slipstream of an aircraft, by a very clever cooling system. We tested this a few years ago. In fact, the video is up on our YouTube channel. And we threw some punched out paper dots from a hole punch into the back of it, and it sucks them out the front, just as advertised. So that cooling system works. So your classic video game gun that runs all day without overheating, it's perhaps a little bit closer to reality with the Lewis. I chose this to show you because it's one of the few guns in our collection with a unit marking. So this was marked to the Sherwood Foresters. So one of the regionally recruited regiments of the British Army, which is traditional, of course. And they marked this gun up. Now, why would you mark up a British gun? Because this was captured by the Germans, converted to 7.92, their cartridge type, of course, captured back by the Sherwood Foresters and marked up by them as a captured enemy weapon. So this thing fought on both sides in the First World War. Now, we have no details of that. We only know that because some kindly soul wrote that on the gun. So thank you, whoever you were. The only major issue I have with this is the rear sight. So they have replaced the rear sight, which is a micrometer adjustable, quite elaborate rear sight, as you'd expect for a gun of this vintage. Turn the wheel on the top and it very, very minutely adjusts the rear sight aperture up and down. It's been replaced by a huge and very fragile looking aperture, ghost ring type thing. Clearly for gameplay reasons, but they've left the sight base in place so you can see where it would have been fitted and folded down. So it's almost like this is a mod that's been done to the gun in universe to make it more usable in this game. So it's wrong, but it's interesting. Now, for all I've been quite keen on this, I am now looking at a bizarre abomination that is casino themed, and we've abandoned all pretense at reality, and the pan magazine has been replaced by a roulette wheel. And instead of ejecting cases, it's ejecting chips. And we're also fudging the reload because there is no longer a catch in the top of the mag, middle of the mag, to be able to pull the magazine off. That's the least of its problems, of course, because there are no cartridges in it either. But you can do this when you're operating in a virtual environment, within a virtual environment, if I've understood this correctly. If I'm ever going to be accepting of bizarre skins, it's going to be in a game where you're not really supposed to be in reality in the first place. Okay, we have the sort of zebra stripe looking M60.
I think this game has the wiggliest bipods I've ever seen in a game.
They are wiggly. Someone's very much in love with the swinging and wiggling physics there. It's nice to see a decent M60 after the slightly disappointing aspect of RoboCop Rogue City, where we had an M60 sort of shoved up the back of an M2 50 cal. This is a pretty good rendition of an M60. Albeit, so it is one of the classic Vietnam era M60s like this one, but it has a Picatinny rail attached to the top cover, which the later variants do have, but this era did not. And by the time the M60 had Picatinny rails, it no longer looked like this at the front. And the rear sight is basically correct, but it has a ring aperture instead of the tiny little notch that was on this era of M60. I can't easily show you that. So I don't think that's a gameplay change to make the field of view bigger, as we typically do see in games like Call of Duty, where they open the ring out. Or in the case of the Lewis gun in this game, add a ring to make the sight easier to use, I think. This seems to be a mistake in that they're looking at the M60 E4 or E6, whatever, sight, thinking that it goes on this. But hey, we don't know where this M60's come from, in theory, and in the context of the game, it hasn't really come from anywhere. It's a sort of Matrix-style virtual gun, so it can be in any configuration you like, really.
A member of the Vogues is the contestant to chase. With all those coins, they're a dream target.
So this is the Ingram M11, or Mac 11 if you prefer. Here's a real one. I did not pick up one with the suppressor on it, as this one has. We do have those as well. I believe we've shown one before. Far better for actual usage, because you actually have something to hold on to without risking putting your fingers or your hand in front of the muzzle. Otherwise, you're just relying on this strap and pulling down. The strap is modelled and is flapping around very, very beautifully on the front there. The first thing I noticed, we deploy this buttstock. Another change to the sights. This is a common theme in this game. Someone has effectively cut off the top of this ring. Ingrams have a sort of Sten style aperture for the rear sight. This has been reprofiled effectively. The top's been cut off and the bottom of the hole has been enlarged as well, which actually isn't an awful idea if you want to quickly acquire targets and be able to see over the top of the gun more easily. It wouldn't break the thing by any means to do that. Somehow, the gun looks too large. I don't know if seeing it in my hat helps, but the M11 is tiny. It's the size of a pistol. We remove the magazine, remove the buttstock, and hide the strap. I mean, it is absolutely tiny. It's not much bigger than it's smaller than a Desert Eagle in some dimensions. So looks like there might be a scaling issue. Or the player character has little tiny hands. So I'm caught on the hop slightly by this gun. I vaguely remember this coming to light, I guess, a decade ago. So this is the SRM Arms Model 1216, 12 bore, 16 rounds. It has this rotary multiple tube magazine. This one, I haven't got one. I haven't got much information on them either, but this one has alter, exploit, destroy on the side of it. It's not a sort of decal from the game. This seems to be incorporated into the gun itself.
I think that's on all of the guns, but it's most prominent
Is it?
on the larger ones like this. I think it's just like the tagline for the contest.
I suppose it's just strange that in my mind, if you're simulating guns in a virtual game, the stickers, as it were, the yellow coloured stuff makes sense as being that layer of unreality. I wouldn't expect the sort of engraved or stamped markings to be part of that universe. But why not? There's literally no reason why it wouldn't be. So it's going to be very hard for me to critique this, but let's see how it plays. Yes, so function-wise, this is correct, I think. So it's operating semi-automatically, but you are manually rotating the cluster of tube bags, essentially, to bring the next one into alignment to feed. Because obviously there's no way for the gun to auto-load from a tube that isn't lined up with the feed way. Well, I mean, there would be. This being a game within a game, you absolutely could do what you like with it, but they are faithfully sticking to the physical capabilities of these weapons.
Very satisfying to see people burst into a cloud of coins as well. Like you've just shotgun blasted Mario or something.
Why do they burst into a cloud of coins?
Because I think the game show you're competing for money. It's like Bloodsport where there's a prize pool, so I think it plays into that vibe of the game show. And a lot of the objectives is to like gather cash and then deposit it at these bank or safes that you're defending. So It's very sort of like horror capitalist sort of vibe where you're having to virtually shoot each other into clouds of coins for actual money.
It is an interesting design choice because you pointing that out has made me realize that most of this is realistic. The guns are quite realistic, really. The way they operate, there's flame, there's smoke, but there's no blood. All the blood is replaced by coins.
I think it's because they talk about sponsors in the game, and like the commentators talk about sponsors. So I wonder if it's something else that like, well, there's no blood, so we can get all the sponsors for this game show that we want. We're
getting a bit meta here, but I wouldn't be surprised if you're not on the money there. Sorry, pun not intended. Okay, guys, those were the guns of the finals. This came out of nowhere as far as I was concerned. I didn't know it existed, but really quite an intriguing new game and an interesting take on video game firearms, which of course we enjoy here. Please forgive that my voice, a tail end of a cold here. Please do check out our websites, our social media channels, and we have our 3 physical museums here in the UK. Here at Leeds, we have our new Reloaded exhibition, which is full of decorated firearms, including a gold Kalashnikov, and a diamond encrusted revolver. So that's going to be on for the next 6 months. So please do come and see that if you can. But we will, of course, be here next week, as always. Take care.